And it is, once again, the Horror Guys.
The Horror Guys. How y'all are?
How y'all are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. I'm Kevin.
I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about some horror movies.
We got a weird bunch today.
We got werewolves and vampires and jesters this week. Mad funny men. What a strange combination.
Yeah, that is quite an odd group.
Yeah. We're going to start out with 2025's spanking brand new Wolfman.
Ooh.
Brought to you by the same guy who brought us Saw and Invisible Man. He's working his way through the Universal movies. Is his intent.
Well, he was up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then we're going to visit the boys from County Hell, which I thought was going to be a bunch of redneck, hillbillies.
I was expecting the Dukes of Hazzard.
It's Irish.
Yeah, it's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then we're going to see Funny Man from 1994. And, strangely enough, Dracula's Dog, also known as Zoltan, Hound of Dracula.
I saw that when it came out.
From 1977. I had never seen this.
It was horrible then, too.
Okay, yeah. And then we're going to finish off with The Night Stalker from 1972. Not the series.
I saw that when it came out, too.
There was, before the series, there was a movie.
There was.
And then there was another movie. And then there was a series.
And then there was none.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that.
Yeah. Well, okay. Before we get started, this episode is brought to you by the Academy Awards of Horror.
Nice.
Yes, it's our newest book, The Horror Guy's Guide to the Academy Awards of Horror. Talks about every horror movie that has been a winner of an Oscar.
Or a nominee.
There have been several Best Pictures, quite a few Best Actor and Best Actress, Best Supporting, a lot of visual effects, sound editing,
makeup.
Makeup is a big one too.
Won
yes,
multiple times. Yeah, it was interesting looking through the list and seeing all the stuff where it started. The first ones that got Oscars, and they're getting more noticed for the Oscars. And like The Substance, for instance, is coming up on this year's Oscars.
Alien Romulus.
And yeah, we don't know if those are winners yet.
We'll find out.
Yeah,
but we do talk about Alien Romulus and Substance, and what's the other one?
Nosferatu.
Yeah, those three have been nominated for things this time around. And, of course, the book is current up to right now, so it just came out. So we've got those three movies in there. Even though we don't know if they're going to win, they are nominated. Mm-hmm. And there's also a selection of, I think, 3 movies that should have got Oscars and didn't. They were nominated for like 8, 10 awards, and somehow managed to avoid all of them.
Sometimes it's like that.
The Sixth Sense, I'm looking at you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But yeah, hop on over there to horrormonthly.com, and there's a link right from the front page where you can find out where to pick that up. Amazon, Apple, Barnes & Noble, Noble, Kobo, and pretty much everywhere else.
Wherever fine books are sold online.
Yeah. And of course, Horror Monthly, the magazine, is there too, and you can pick up this month's issue, issue number 41. It's available now, and it's got everything we saw in January in it.
Okay.
A lot of good stuff there.
Nice.
But this week we watched Wolfman, not the Wolfman.
Just Wolf
and not
Man.
Wolfman.
2 words. Wolf Man.
1941 had Wolfman.
Wolfman.
All one word. 2010 had The Wolf Man. Or maybe it was The Wolf Man. I don't know. It had a the in it.
Mm-hmm.
This one here is just Wolf Space Man. And it's the new one.
Right. Which was directed by Lee Whannell. Also written by Lee Whannell and Corbett Tuck. Stars Christopher Abbott, Julia Garner, and Matilda Firth. Runtime's an hour and 43 minutes. Trailer in the show notes.
Ow! Well, spoiler free.
Well, this has a pretty minimal setup at the beginning.
I thought it had a pretty long setup, actually.
But I mean, simple.
It's simple.
Yeah, it did go on a bit of time, but then it gets to things abruptly.
When it gets going, it gets going.
It doesn't let up once it gets going, yeah. Overall, we both liked it. It's kind of similar to other werewolf movies to be, a little comforting and familiar, but it throws in some different things, some different aspects too.
See, now we didn't like Nosferatu because it was the same old story with not much new going on.
This had some.
This takes the same old story, but it adds a new spin. Mm-hmm. It mixes up enough to be
interesting,
different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's one complaint I've got about this movie.
Only one?
One major complaint. Before it came out, there was this picture, I don't know, some press thing where this guy was in this horrible Wolfman mask, and people said, that's just
Fright Nights
ridiculous.
at Universal
Nobody looked.
Studios, I think it was. Yeah.
That's just horrible. That monster can't possibly look like that. That's just some kind of a lazy joke. The monster did kind of look like that.
A little bit, yeah.
It's a big, dirty, hairy man.
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
If you like, The Howling and that kind of werewolves, or Silver Bullet and that kind of werewolves,
It's not all out
or Dog Soldiers,
all out wolfy. Yeah.
No, this is just a hairy man with bad teeth.
Well, it's more than that, but yeah, it's not full out wolfing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're told that in 1995, a hiker went missing in the mountains of Oregon. Several members of the community speculated the man had contracted an animal-borne virus they called Hills fever. The indigenous people there called it the face of the wolf.
Okay.
Grady, a father, and his young son Blake go out hunting in the mountains. The man warns his son about not eating the mushrooms. Because they'll kill you!
And
He's
those
a little paranoid and crazy.
Yeah, but those were so obvious. I was thinking, those are going to be Chekhov's mushrooms.
Never saw them again, did
but
you?
no, we never saw them again.
No, I think they were just there to show us how incredibly overprotective.
Overprotective
Yeah.
he was. Very protective, yeah.
When they spot a deer, Blake runs off alone to track it. He sees something scary, but his father is even scarier. He's maybe overprotective to the part of abusive.
Almost.
They hear something roaring out in the trees and hide in a deer blind. It's all very tense as the creature climbs up the side of the deer blind, but it eventually leaves.
And that was a cool tension building, too.
You can see it breathing.
You could see its breath steaming up.
Yeah.
As it closes in.
Well, Blake and his father go home, and then Grady calls a friend on the radio. I saw it. The face of the wolf. It's real. All right. Well, 30 years later, we see grown-up Blake and his daughter Ginger in the big city. His wife Charlotte comes in with Blake's father's legal paperwork in the mail. Blake has inherited Grady's estate after Grady has finally been declared deceased.
Yeah, he went up missing a long time ago.
We don't know how long, but how long does it take to get somebody declared dead?
I want to say 7 years. I'm not positive of that. That sounds right to me.
Later developments in the movie had me wondering about that. Because 7 years is a long time for this.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, Blake hadn't spoken to his scary father in years, and he regrets that now. Blake and Charlotte are having some marital issues, and he wants to work harder to work that out. He suggests that the whole family pack up and go to Oregon and spend the summer on the family farm.
Okay.
And
sounds
Charlotte's
like a good plan.
You mean the country? And we got Green Acres brewing here.
And I'm just going to go ahead and throw out a character comment about Charlotte, too, because she comes across as a city girl.
Big city girl, never seen the country. What's a cow? Things like that.
Yeah. And yet later, she is very capable in the country setting, in some mechanical settings, and surprising things that she does. Like, what you mean? You're not just some simple city girl.
Well, she is though, which makes her character probably the least believable.
It was surprising.
She suddenly gets country skills out of nowhere.
I don't. Where'd she get these? Maybe
we'll get to the gun here in a minute.
Yeah.
On the way, getting turned around, because they're reading a paper map and not GPS for some reason, they meet Derek, someone he knew when he was really young.
Well, there's not much signal out there, I think.
All right.
They're playing up on that.
Well, right off the bat, Derek warns them not to be outside after dark. Charlotte doesn't like Derek because he was a gun. He has a gun with him. He was out hunting. He was in his own deer blind. He's a country guy. He's a redneck. He's got the gun. And you can tell she's one of the big city liberal types. She's afraid of guns. Knows nothing about guns and doesn't even want to be in a room with a gun.
And yet later... she's very comfortable with a gun later.
She knows all about the guns.
Yeah.
Derek warns him that it takes a special type to live out here with the animals and diseases and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Diseases?
Diseases?
Well, Derek rides along to guide them to Blake's dad's farm. As they talk, they almost hit someone in the road and crash the truck they're driving. We're like 15 minutes in, I think.
Mm-hmm.
The truck comes to rest, stuck in a tree on its side. It's all very tense, even more so when a strange animal comes out of the wood, scratches Blake, and drags away Derek's unconscious body after ripping his belly open.
That escalated quickly.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The three run to Grady's farmhouse as something growls behind them. They barely get inside before it comes pounding on the door. It sounded like an animal, but it was standing up on 2 feet like a person, Blake tells Charlotte as he barricades the door. Blake spits out a tooth, thinking he hit his face on the steering wheel in the accident. He did not.
We know what it is.
Charlotte notices his arm has a big scratch on it, like from an animal. This city slicker family is not coping well with life in the mountains.
It's a rough start.
And that's where we're going to stop. You know where this is going.
Yep.
You know where this is going already.
He's been infected.
Well, a lot of Blake's dialogue here seems really overwritten, especially in the beginning when he's talking to the kid. Nobody talks to a child like that. Someone who's never seen a kid wrote this, apparently.
Well, maybe.
There are a few callbacks to the 1941 film. Would you see it was Pierce Moving Truck, named after Jack Pierce. The license plate was 1941 or something.
There's some references there.
But not as many as you might expect. Didn't really throw much in there. I didn't expect to spot anything to connect to the 2010 version.
No.
But they may have been trying to forget that ever happened.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Well, there's no gypsy moon curses here, just a weird animal disease. Most of the film is about watching the disease progress, not knowing what the final product is going to be. I was kind of reminded by 1986's The Fly with the slow progression of this special effects makeup disease.
Except this is faster. Yeah.
This is faster?
The transformation? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Brundle took
Oh,
weeks
well, yeah. This all takes place in
gradually
one
set.
night, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the transformation scene in werewolf movies, usually the best part of them, there's 2 or 3 seconds of stop motion animation or something.
No, here it's slow motion.
It takes like an hour.
Lots of prosthetics and practical effects were used in this.
Yeah, it's a very slow, gradual transformation. Takes all night. Odd thing is, though, he was infected after dark, and he became a werewolf that same night. Mm-hmm. That's a fast-moving disease.
And it doesn't have the werewolf thing where you switch back to human again.
Apparently not, no.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it.
Charlotte comes off as a pampered big city girl who doesn't know anything about rural life, but she can jumpstart a truck and set a bear trap in the dark.
Yeah.
I don't think they knew where they were going with her. The wolf vision special effect is pretty cool, and I haven't seen it done like this before. You've seen monster visions before, point of view from the monster shots, but this is a really nice one here. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, it'll be like a scene where the wife or daughter are talking to him, and then it swivels around and shows his point of view, and everything is super bright and sparkly because his sentences are heightened, but he's hearing wah 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 because he's losing his abilities to communicate and what their voice sounds like to him, and it's a cool effect.
The Wolfman makeup will probably more realistic in nature. I mean, if you were really going to turn into a werewolf, this is probably what you'd get rather than a dog man. It's not impressive at all, though. It's basically a dirty-looking man with big teeth. Leaving out the Wolfman's appearance, overall, I did like it.
Yeah, I thought the slow motion transformation was interesting. Yeah,
and I will point out here we already reviewed the 2010 version. You can Google that. You can find that on the Horror Guys site. But the thing I did not like about 2010 is all the characters were just over the top weird from the beginning.
Yeah,
Larry Talbot, name drop there, was a weirdo,
eccentric.
His father was just insane. And things only get worse when the werewolf bits come in.
Right.
But there's nobody there to relate to at all. These are all 3 normal people, and you can relate to all of them, which I do think helps.
Yeah, it was nice. And they did a nice job, I thought, with their roles, all 3 of them, even the kid.
Yeah, even back in the original 1941 Wolfman, the characters were relatable and likable. 2010, man, they all needed to die quick.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. All right, well, anyway, that's all for...
So anyway, pretty much a thumbs up for us on this one, yeah.
It's not the best Wolfman movie.
But it was entertaining.
It was fine, yeah. It was a good summer,
I'm glad I saw
winter
it.
movie.
Yeah.
Summer, winter, whatever.
Yeah.
Just don't watch it on the full moon. Full moon doesn't make a doggone bit of difference.
No,
There's no gypsies, which takes away... I guess the gypsy thing would be considered racist now.
It takes away the magic element of it.
There's no magic, yes. It's just a disease.
It's just science.
Science. All right, The Boys from County Hell. 2020, directed by Chris Bow. Written by him and Brendan Mullen. Stars Jack Rowan, Nigel O'Neill, and Louisa Harland. Hour and 28 minutes. Trailer in the usual place.
Yeah, like I said, this wasn't what I expected, but it was a lot of fun. I liked it.
Well, in America, when you talk about counties instead of cities, you generally think rural, country, First thing I think when people start making a big deal about what county they live in, I flash back to the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
And, redneck hillbilly types.
And that's what I was expecting, the rednecks, the Dukes of Hazzard versus a vampire.
And this is not what this is. Or maybe it is, but it's the Irish version.
Yeah, it is.
Less car chases.
Yeah.
Well, this has an Irish vampire that supposedly Bram Stoker, who was Irish, by the way, based his famous story on. The problem here is Dracula is a fictional book. This one is real, with all different rules that it follows. There was a lot of dark comedy in this one, likable characters, and a good bit of gore. We'd call it a winner.
Yeah, we would.
And I think the best part of this is that it doesn't follow the usual rules. This is a weird vampire.
And they know what these people know what the usual rules are. And
they've all seen Dracula. They know Dracula.
They keep trying to apply them, and they don't work, which is, comedically, their frustration. Yeah.
All right, well, give us a taste.
Well, an old couple whines about the boring TV. They're just sitting at home being bored. And the old woman starts getting a bad nosebleed. And suddenly his eyes start bleeding. And they both start leaking badly from every opening. Well, the door opens, and both of them start screaming.
You're not supposed to bleed until the vampire bites you in the neck, right?
Well, this is different.
This is different.
Yeah, the blood comes to the vampire. Yeah. Well, 2 months earlier, at the pub, Claire cuts off Eugene and his friend for non-payment. A couple of Canadian tourists come in. And the boys offer to lead them to the famous cairn. Is that right? Cairn? How you say it?
Cairn.
Pile of rocks.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a pile of rocks.
Yeah.
And they mentioned you need a guide because you might get run over by a crazy bull or something.
Yeah, that's some foreshadowing. Yeah. They offer to give them a tour there for a price. And they talk about the local legend. There was a real vampire who influenced Bram Stoker. And that vampire was killed and buried in this very field under that pile of rocks. The tales say that whenever he came close to people, they would spontaneously bleed. And Abartek, the vampire, is supposed to be buried under that cairn. Well, they pull a prank and give the Canadians a scare.
Which is really funny.
They get their money's worth, yeah. The third friend, SP, points out that this whole field is scheduled for demolition and new bypass construction. And
we know where that's going.
Some of the townspeople and some of the buildings are going to get torn down, too. Well, Eugene's father, Francie, gets a job working at the construction on the bypass. And Eugene points out that the locals are going to get really upset. And William's parents are going to be evicted to make way for the project. So it's going to be rough for the town, but they're making a little money for now. Eugene, William, and Claire drive to town and talk to George, William's father, and a local mortician. They show George a skull they found in the basement on their property.
It's a normal human skull. It's just very, very old.
Yeah, and that was kind of funny, too. They hand it to him like, how old is this? And George is like, it's a skull. How do you know? I'm an undertaker. I'm not an archaeologist. Well, William confides to Eugene that he plans to move to Australia soon. They get a little drunk at the pub and walk home through the field, fight. And it's like a friends fight that I guess they do all the time. Every time he gets drunk,
they're Irish.
They fight. Yeah, they're Irish. Well, except William gets gored by a bull right on top of the cairn, and he bleeds heavily into the stones.
Oh, my.
And you can see the blood soaking into the dirt. This is not a good thing. Well, after the funeral, Thomas the bartender refuses to serve SP and Eugene, both because of William and because of them ruining the cairn, the only reason that tourists come to this little town. And then construction starts, and they tear down the cairn, and hilarity ensues.
Yes. We know what happens in 2 months. We've already seen that.
What happens when you dig up a vampire? Bad things. Yeah. But there's a little more complicated than that, too, because there's people doing things to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, this is just a really unique vampire. Yeah. Abartek doesn't bite people. The blood leaks out and finds its way to him.
Mm-hmm.
That's convenient.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's a whole new vampire story where the regular rules don't work. The story about Abartek being the inspiration for Bram Stoker to write Dracula is actually said to be true. It's a new take on vampires. There's a lot of humor here.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I liked it.
Yeah, me too.
I think I avoided this for 4 or 5 years because of the redneck angle. I did not really want to see that.
And we were wrong.
And it wasn't that at all.
I think I might put this as my favorite of the week. I might.
Well, I have to pick a
enjoyed-
different one for nostalgia reasons, but I think this is probably the best, the one that holds up the best.
Are you going with the Night Stalker
Yes.
for nostalgia
Yes.
reasons? Yeah, that's it. That is great.
All right, well, we're going to take a little trip back in time to 1994, where we watch Funny Man. And we watched this because Christopher Lee was in it. I had never heard of this before.
I had never either.
And I'm amazed this didn't get a whole franchise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect for it. Yeah.
Written and directed by Simon Sprackling. Stars Tim James, Christopher Lee, and Benny Young. Hour and 33 minutes. Trailer. Oh, you can watch the entire thing on YouTube. It's not a trailer.
Uh-huh.
Watch it on YouTube.
And you should. Yeah. And
Well, watch a little bit of it. You'll either love it or you'll hate it.
Yeah.
It's an awful, awful movie, but it is very funny.
it reminded me a little bit of The Wishmaster.
Reminded
Here
me a
and
little
there.
bit of Terrifier.
A little bit of Terrifier. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, spoiler free, this was completely stupid and utterly funny. We kept watching it thinking, oh, this is awful, and then laughing out loud at the humor in it. It's really British. It's spoofy and cartoonish and violent and graphic and raunchy and very weird.
Watch it more for the comedy than the horror.
Mm-hmm.
Although there's a lot of gore and horror in it.
We sort of give it a thumbs up.
Sort of.
Yeah. Well, it's said that it was intended, they started out making it a serious movie.
But things
the,
happen.
The guy playing Funny Man was so good and so good at improving that they just went with him doing his thing and utterly weirdness. And yeah.
Well, let me tell you right now, if you like Art the Clown and Terrifier, him being a mime and a clown and being silly but terrifying at the same time.
And having, well, and like the Wishmaster where he had absolute power.
Yeah, he can do
You know,
kind of anything.
So kind of combine Art the Clown with somebody omnipotent.
And I would be willing to bet money they took this guy as an inspiration for Art the Clown, though.
I wouldn't be surprised if they
Very
did it.
similar characters.
Yeah, it's along the same lines. This guy talks, though.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we open on a high-stakes poker game, and the men playing aren't too happy with their hands. Max bets $50,000 on his hand, and all the others fold except for Callum, the old man in the white suit, Christopher Lee, who puts up the key to his priceless ancestral home. It's a $950,000 raise in the stakes. But Max has the joker, so he wins. Callum Chance is creepy and makes a threat. You're going to regret winning.
And that's Christopher Lee.
Yeah, credits roll. While Max, his wife Tina, and their children go to their new mansion in the country. There's a game room, and we hear Callum's voice talking about a creepy game that Max has only just begun. Elsewhere, John Taylor, a musician and Max's brother, stops to pick up a hitchhiker on the way to London. He takes too long picking up the one hitchhiker and ends up picking up 4 of them. But you gotta wonder with this
It's
group.
the Scooby Gang.
It certainly is.
They did. Oh, they clearly
Yeah.
picked up on the Scooby Gang. Yeah. They're
And you're going to have to figure out which character's which, but it's not too hard to pick out a couple of them.
They're all there. Yeah. Yeah.
Max and Tina talk about Jamie and Harry having nightmares. She doesn't like this old castle and wants to go home to L.A. Max agrees to find a hotel once Johnny gets there. Meanwhile, little Harry looks at a court gesture picture in the stained glass window, and we see something breaking up through the floor somewhere in the house.
Uh-oh.
Well, little Harry and the funny man play together. Tina walks into the Love Gallery, a room as weird as it sounds.
Yes, it is. That's something.
Well, the funny man comes up behind her, and she wonders what she's been smoking. She backs out of the room slowly and then screams. But then she finds out the room isn't as easy to leave as she had hoped. And he eventually beats her to death with a club.
Because that's how he operates.
Oh, right then.
He tells some jokes first, though.
Yeah.
He makes it funny.
Jamie plays Game Boy in a room. This was the 90s, after all, so it was an actual Game Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Not seeing the funny man dancing around behind her. The funny man then fries her with battery cables. Max gets high and plays with a deck of cards that are all jokers. Johnny shows up with his hitchhiking friends, and the psychic commando, one of the hitchers, senses something is wrong in the house. She does, however, release an ultrasonic scream that makes everyone cover their ears. Yes, it's not just the funny man who's a comic book. She then shoots up with some kind of drug, which annoys Johnny. The other three Scoobies want to go out and leave her here, but Johnny says they can't leave without her. Thelma, not Velma, Thelma, says psychic abilities are real before exploring the house to find Max's family and the psychic woman. Fred and Shaggy take a walk around and talk about how weird the whole situation is. Meanwhile, the funny man is outside, peeing all over Johnny's truck. The funny man then plays soccer with someone's severed head.
Ew.
I think we'll stop there.
And then other things happen.
Oh, lots of things happen.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
Doc!
What?
Where?
Where?
Yeah, best line of the movie. Well, fans of Art the Clown from the Terrifier series would love the funny man. I wonder if Damien Leone took any influence from this. There's even a bit of resemblance between the two characters.
A little bit, yeah.
As you said earlier, this was intended to be a full-on horror film, but Tim James's character evolved during production, and as the filming progressed, they ignored the script more and more. Supposedly, a lot of the crew were on drugs during the creation of the film, and it shows.
Believe that.
It shows a lot.
I could totally believe that.
As you might expect, it's kind of disjointed and all over the place thematically. Christopher Lee filled his tiny role in a single day. He probably had no idea what the rest of the film was going to be.
Yeah, it would have been edited in afterward.
Yeah, he's in the first scene with the gambling, and then does a couple line of off-screen narration elsewhere in the film.
And at the very end, he makes an appearance again.
Yeah, it's a very minor role. The four hitchhikers actually were based on the Scooby Gang, and the Thelma character is so obvious that it's hard to miss the similarities.
Oh, yeah.
The funny man's mask and the design is really good. I'm surprised he didn't get a whole franchise.
They totally could have.
I think maybe it was just a little too silly.
Well, like that stops them.
Some of the characters here have accents that are a little hard to follow as an American viewer, but it's easy enough to tell what's going on. Actually, the sets and the costumes are both very low budget looking, but completely appropriate to the story.
As you were saying?
It's objectively a terrible, terrible movie, but I laughed numerous times.
So did I.
If you're in a silly British comedy with a taste of horror, you might just love this. Maybe. You'll need to come at this one from the comedy angle and not get too wrapped up in it being a horror movie.
Well, he's foul and funny, and he keeps breaking the fourth wall. And
he knows we're watching.
I wanted to not like it, but I kept laughing. So
it's dumb.
Yeah, but funny.
In a very British humor kind of way. Well, another one that's kind of dumb in a much more serious way.
Yeah, it was.
Dracula's Dog from 1977, which really sounds stupid and silly in comedy, but it's not.
I was expecting this to be stupid and funny. Well, it is a little bit stupid, but I was expecting more humor.
The idea is stupid, but they take it all very seriously.
Really grim and serious, yeah.
Also known as Zoltan, Hound of Dracula. Directed by Albert Band, written by Frank Ray Perilli, stars Jose Ferrer, Michael Pataki, and Jan Schutan. An hour and 27 minutes. And this one you only get a trailer for. I don't know where you find this one. Where did we find this? Was this Tubi?
I think it was
Tubi.
I think it was.
Well, that would not surprise me a bit.
Be right up their alley, yeah. And spoiler-free? I should tell you what, spoiler-free.
Tell me about spoiler-free.
The premise sounds silly, like we said. But it's a serious horror movie with a decent story and some tension and a body count. Reggie Nalder is perfect as the main villain in looks and persona. He's really good.
Boy, that guy looked dead when he was alive.
This is one worth checking out. Yeah, and his face is really scarred up, the lower half of his face.
Yeah, he's got this puckered up prune face. And
yeah.
He played the vampire in the original Salem's Lot. He played... I remember he's in an Andorian in Star Trek. Basically, very pruny looking guy,
especially from the nose down.
Yeah.
And I was looking at trivia about him. He
was in a lot of things.
Yeah, but the story of what happened to him. There's like 3 different stories, and he would kind of just evade, what the actual story is of what happened to his face. Yeah, some kind of severe injury and reconstruction. That but we don't know.
Okay. Well, we open on some soldiers looking generically communist.
Yeah, they were.
They're not speaking Russian, but okay. They're practicing shelling out in the woods. Stop blasting! We've uncovered a tomb. Well, they go down into the huge chamber. There are various crypts of members of the Dracula family. There's like Bob Dracula, a bunch of people down there. They post a guard and leave for the night. Sometime during the night, there's an earthquake, and the guard hears noises in the chamber. 2 of the tombs open and coffins slide out. The guard, never having seen a vampire movie, opens the lid and pulls out the stake that's in the shroud-covered body. Is it Dracula?
And we tried to tell him, don't do that. But
yeah, that's always a mistake.
yeah.
I mean, even if you don't know about vampires, why would you do that?
Yeah, maybe.
Wanted a souvenir.
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Well, did he pull the stake out of Dracula? No, it's Dracula's dog.
What?
Credits roll.
Oh, that's crazy.
Well, we flash back to Zoltan the dog, back when he was alive. He was a good dog, defending his human owner when Dracula came to bite her. The barking woke up the woman, who screamed and drove the vampire away. The bat, however, bit Zoltan, turning him into a vampire dog. The dog then pulls out another coffin and pulls a stake out of that body. Zoltan doesn't wake up Dracula. He wakes up his former owner, Veit Smith, who says they must go and find a new master.
He's the Renfield.
But he's got a stake in his heart, and he's hundreds of years old,
yeah.
too, so Renfields do live forever.
Somewhat, yeah.
But they got to have a master.
Yes, yeah, they can't last long without a master.
In the morning, the soldiers return with Inspector Branco, here to find out what happened to the dead guard. The soldiers carry out the various coffins and open one in front of the major and inspector. It's clearly a vampire tomb, and the whole countryside is going to be terrorized if this gets out. Worse yet, 2 of the coffins are empty. They burn the coffins and the mostly dead guard as well. He had a heartbeat, but he wasn't breathing. Inspector Branco says Veit Smith was more of a Renfield than a true vampire. They cannot exist long without their masters. There are no more vampiric Draculas, but there is a Michael Dracula living in America, and Veit is most certainly going to find him. And he has no idea who or what was in that other empty coffin.
Michael Dracula.
Yeah, Mike Dracula.
Yep.
Well, we cut to Veit aboard a ship, and we flash back to how he got hooked up with Dracula. He has Zoltan asleep in a box in the cargo hold. Customs open the crate to check for contraband, but there's just a dead dog inside. Later, we see that Zoltan is vampire fine. He was just playing dead.
Like a dog trick.
Vampire fine.
He's vampire fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Elsewhere, Michael Drake and his wife Marla Dracula. Oh, Michael Drake. Yeah, he doesn't go by Dracula anymore.
Yeah.
Send their 2 kids to bed. They let the German Shepherd out for the night, and he's a good dog, too. Everybody here's a good dog.
Yes.
All dogs are good dogs.
Well, they turn bad, though.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
They're packing for an upcoming camping trip, and he makes sure to put his gun in the overnight bag. We're going to see that gun again.
Oh, yeah. They make sure we know he has one.
Zoltan gets up on the roof and looks through the window at Michael, asleep in his bed. So I guess the vampire dog is going to bite him and turn him. Veit tells Zoltan to go in and turn him into a vampire, but a loose roof tile breaks, and the Drake's dogs go berserk, waking everyone up. All right, so we got the characters, and the whole point here is Zoltan needs to turn Michael into a vampire so they'll have a new master.
Yes, they need a new Dracula.
Don't know why Dracula, the family, is important, but it can't be just some guy.
It's a bloodline kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, it's a ridiculous concept. It's all played pretty straight here. There's not a lot of joking.
Pretty serious, yeah.
The dog is always photographed so his eyes are glowing evilly, which is a nice effect, because dogs do that.
And he turns other dogs, and he has a vampire pack of dogs.
Uh-huh. There's a whole pack of vampire dogs at the end.
Yep.
The real villain here is Veit Smith, who looks like a walking skull. He doesn't even wear makeup, I don't think. The actor looks halfway mummified without any special makeup. I seem to remember a lot of wild dog pack horror movies that came out around this time.
Yeah.
I think there may have been something in the news at one point, and the horror people just went with it.
Dog's scary.
We need to find some dog pack movies. We have not done any of those yet. Well, this was one of them, but with a supernatural twist added. It's a silly idea, but not a terrible movie. Mm-hmm. And I very clearly remember watching this one on TV in the 70s.
Okay.
One of those Sunday night movies on network. I'm sure it had a lot less blood than this version did.
I'd never seen it before. Yeah, this was my first.
It's not great, but it's not as ridiculously terrible as the name would make it sound.
Yeah, you should give it a chance.
Yeah. Takes us to 1972's The Night Stalker, directed by John Llewellyn Moxey. Written by Richard Matheson, Jeffrey Grant Rice, and Max Hodge. Stars Darren McGavin, Carol Lindley, and Simon Oakland. It's an hour and 14 minutes.
Kind of on the short side.
Made-for-TV movie. Mm-hmm. I think it was made for TV.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
before the TV series, there was this movie, which is kind of like a longer episode of the show to come, including the voiceovers that give it the noir kind of vibe.
If you've ever seen any of the Night Stalker, this is like that, only a little longer. They didn't change much.
No, it's very good with Darren McGavin nailing the role as a journalist trailing a story of supernatural events, and no one really believes except for him.
Yeah, and this was made by Dan Curtis, the guy who did Dark Shadows.
All right. Yeah.
And there's a lot of musical cues and things that you'll notice that are the same. Now, the thing is, Dark Shadows was a TV show during the series that had 2 feature films in the early 70s. The TV series led to the movies.
Yeah.
This one
The other way
had
around.
2 feature movies in the 70s that led to a TV series.
Right.
So it went kind of just the opposite way.
And I read something that said at the time this was the most successful made-for-TV movie.
Yes, so
Yeah.
they had to make
had
more.
the best viewers, and so they said, hey, people like this. Let's do more.
And I will say right now, hearing about this is the TV show that got me hooked on horror.
The TV
I'm
show?
sure I had seen I know I'd seen old horror movies and Hammer and Universal movies, but I waited up late every weeknight for this show when it came on, and I was like 5 at this time, so that's pretty young.
I'm pretty sure I saw them all when they came out.
I know I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I missed any.
For a 5-year-old to watch the werewolves and killer robots and seaweed monsters and yeah, we're twisted.
Yeah. Well, I was about 7, but yeah, still mighty young.
Well, my love of horror started right here. We hear on a cassette recording that there's been a huge cover-up of this story. We cut to Las Vegas, where a woman walks home among the classic casinos. Boy, those casinos look low-tech compared to the modern things.
Yeah, 1972. They've come a long ways.
Yeah. Well, Vegas,
Well,
Vegas itself has changed a lot in 50 years.
It's funny though. They some of the ones there on the strip are still there though. Some of the classics.
They don't look like this.
Some of the classics still do. You
think? Okay.
The strip. Yeah. So, yeah. Some of it. They've changed a lot, but not completely.
Well, she goes down and you read the marquees.
Oh yeah. Who's showing?
Yeah.
Who was big in the 70s?
They didn't even have Wayne Newton in those days.
It was pre-Newton.
She goes down a dark alley and a man grabs her, bites her on the neck, and kills her. Credits roll.
Zoinks.
Well, the coroner swears his associates to secrecy as there's something very unusual about this girl's body. Carl Kolchak, a reporter, argues with his boss and gets assigned the story. He goes to Vegas to talk to Gail Foster, an old girlfriend and one of the dead girl's friends. Not long after, there's another murder. Sheriff Butcher already knows and dislikes Kolchak, but they check out another dead waitress. Kolchak leaps to some conclusions about the story, and he gets chewed out by Tony, his boss. If you like seeing Carl get chewed out by Tony,
Tony's good at it.
there's a lot of that in the series.
Yeah, there is.
There's another victim, and Kolchak notices a pattern. All the police stop talking about the case, and his friend Bernie promises to look into some things for Kolchak, who thinks the killer may believe that he's a vampire. He's some sort of vampire-obsessed lunatic.
He is certainly following the pattern of it, yeah.
He gets a call from the doctor at the hospital. All the blood has been stolen from the blood bank.
Huh, like a vampire would do.
There's a coroner's inquest, and the coroner says the wounds look like those of an animal bite. There's also human saliva in the wounds. He also suspects that some serial killer out there believes he's a vampire. Or maybe it's just a guy who's high on pot. Yep, it was the 70s.
Yeah.
They did get a vague description of the guy who broke into the blood bank, and the district attorney demands that the reporters in the room keep quiet about the vampire angle. Well, Vampire Killer in Las Vegas is the headline that Kolchak turns in.
Yeah,
Well-
that goes over really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's another victim, the 4th, but this time there's a witness, and the police composite winds up in the newspaper. We get a good look at the killer this time, bloodshot eyes and all. Kolchak and Tony argue about whether they should report the news or not.
It's crazy, and it'll scare people, but we have the need. We deserve to do this.
You
The
probably
people
should
deserve to
report
know.
in the newspaper that there's a vampire terrorizing the town. You could say that there's a lunatic basing his murders on a vampire.
Yes, that would be totally acceptable.
I don't know
Yeah.
how that helps anybody, but at least it's true.
Well, be careful walking alone at night and so forth. Yeah.
And hilarity ensues.
Yeah, things happen.
The vampire here is just a guy with fangs and bloodshot eyes. He doesn't turn into a bat or anything like that. He's real strong. He never speaks, though, which adds a lot to the mystery. You gotta wonder what this guy's daily life was like. He's hundreds of years old. Could he not speak?
Maybe he lost the ability to. Don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
Half the story is Kolchak fighting against the authorities who just want to hush up the truth and protect their own image. 1970s, late 60s, down with the establishment. Kolchak is right there.
You betcha.
This was the original influence behind the creation of the X-Files. I can't think of the X-Files guy's name right now, but he has admitted that this was a big...
Mulder. Yeah.
No, the director, the writer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that guy.
That guy, yeah.
Yeah, I'm blanking out on his name.
He has many times credited this as his inspiration.
Carter.
Yeah, Chris Carter, right.
Yeah.
And dozens of other supernatural TV series based on this as well. This was a standalone movie, and it did really well, leading to a second movie, which we maybe just might watch for next week.
We might.
And an eventual TV series, along with a failed reboot in 2005. You watch any of that 2005 series?
I did not, no.
It was kind of awful.
Darren McGavin wasn't in it.
No, I think he made an appearance in the pilot, but not really. No, it's a young guy.
Tried with a new cast. No, I never saw any of it. We should try it.
I want to say it was Rufus Sewell.
Okay.
But it maybe just somebody who looked like him. I don't remember. You're going to look it up, though, right?
I'm going to look it up while you talk.
Yeah. Well, I remember watching it when it first came out, and I caught it in reruns every couple years, and it's a huge reason why I got addicted to horror stories. Why I have not done a book on this yet, I do not know. I bet there's going to be one eventually. So who was in the 2005 Night Stalker?
Oh, there it is. Stuart Townsend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. He's the main guy.
The vampire, what was he in? Queen of the Damned.
Yes.
Lestat.
And other things.
The lesser Lestat.
And Gabrielle Union.
I don't know who that is.
An actress.
Okay. All right. So if you want some old-time nostalgia that probably doesn't really hold up that well today, I don't know. Maybe it does. What do you think?
I think it holds up.
Yeah.
For entertainment, yeah.
Considering it took place in the 70s, when they had like flash bulbs and cassette recorders for the news, and newspapers actually told the truth, and yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And of course, it led to a whole bunch of stuff.
It sure did.
All right. Hey, that's it for this week.
It is. We didn't talk about any shorts.
We didn't have any shorts this week.
Oops.
We've been busy.
Oopsie.
Other things.
Uh-huh.
We'll have some shorts next week. I've already watched them. Got to write them up soon.
Okay.
But that's it for this week. Stop in over at horrormonthly.com and pick up the Academy Awards of Horror.
Nice.
A lot of good movies. Actually, if you get nominated for an Academy Award, you got to be pretty good. So this book probably, of all the books we've got out, the Horror Guys Guides, this probably has the best movies in it.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
I don't know if it's the best selection or the best bunch, but it's the best movies just because the Academy says so.
They got nominated, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, tune in next week when we will have 5 more movies and some shorts.
Okay.
I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
See you next week.
See ya.